I spent 40 years building a nest egg, 30 years paying off a mortgage, 20 years saving for college. I'm done worrying. Now I want to live.
Lincoln Financial Group. Clear solutions in a complex world.
First is making enough to retire. Then you gotta worry about outliving the money. Well, I'm taking care of that. Now, if I can just...
Oppenheimer funds. The right way to invest.
I'm sorry, I couldn't help it over here, but I highly recommend the Southwest Pacific Rim Tectonic Drift Emerging Continent Contrarian Uncomfortable Investor Equity Value Fund.
You should be in that.
Definitely.
What was the name of that fund again?
As the Dow Jones Industrials took off on a fear-fed freefall to close down a record 508.32 points, panicked traders worked through lunch hours in a desperate but losing attempt to keep up with tickers that rolled up an all-time high volume.
A selling panic, the professionals call it. By the closing bell, the Dow Jones Industrial Average was in the steepest fall in its 103-year history, down more than 500 points.
It was enough to force the Dow Jones down 616 points, a drop of 5.5%. The fragile technology stocks even harder hit, the Nasdaq index in freefall down nearly 10%.
Wall Street watched Washington with shock and fear. As the bailout package went down on Capitol Hill, the Dow went down like a sub. A history-making 777-point nosedive. The Nasdaq plunged almost 10%. Among 160 companies in danger of defaulting over the next 12 months, according to Standard & Poor's, are United Airlines parent UAL, General Motors, Six Flags, and Trump Entertainment Resorts.
Look. You know you're a fake. You know that. Your whole network, the way you cover it, is fake. We've done this right, and we really have done this right. The problem is the press doesn't cover it the way it should be.
The global economy is facing its biggest crisis in 90 years. The International Monetary Fund says the pandemic and lockdown measures will cause the worst recession since the Great Depression.
I am Ahmed from Gaza. I write these words living in daily fear for my mother's life. I do not want to lose her as I lost my father, who was killed by the Israeli army. She has heart problems and we are trying to get her medical treatment outside Gaza. We live under a strict blockade where hunger and lack of medical care are used as weapons. We are denied the most basic right to live. I speak to you today to share my voice and my family's cry with the world. I humbly ask for any help, no matter how small. If you cannot help directly, sharing this message could make a real difference for my family.
The following program is funded by contributions to the Blackburb Community Fund made by citizens like you. Thanks, beloved. Okay, get this. In a 2005 paper now mysteriously scrubbed from the internet, Citigroup wealth analysts characterized the U.S. economy as a plutonomy. Defined as an economy where economic growth is largely powered by and for the wealthy few. In plutonomies, the marginal consumer, the individual whose behavior most shifts the economic needle, isn't you or me making barely $70K using Afterpay on Chipotle. It's the stinking filthy rich. Those who make closer to $70K an hour that control how, when, and where the economy moves. Examples of plutonomies are littered throughout history and read like a greatest hits of the good times TM. You got 1600s Holland. Look at all the tulips. The Gilded Age. Don't worry. The golds and the glitter. And of course, the Roaring 20s. I mean, they don't call them the Good Gatsby, do they? Plutonic countries share several features that enable their elite to amass obscene amounts of concentrated wealth. We got neoliberal financial models often realized as deregulation and privatization efforts, cultural tolerance for inequality, stubbornly low wealth taxes, and to the surprise of many a MAGA head, globalization. I mean, how else are we going to get a diverse workforce to put on our company asset? The opposite of a plutonomy would be an egalitarian economy. These are coming increasingly rare, as my friend Elliot Sang discussed, but think Japan until recently and the EU more generally. Spain is actually an example of a mixed capitalist country who is seeing the structural issues of a two-tiered treatment of wealth and is taking serious action. So get this, on average, just around 3% of a country's wealth is owned by half its population, while its richest 0.5%, yes, that's 0.5%, own a quarter. In 2024, Spain was held up by researchers from the Tax Justice Network as a roadmap for how other countries could raise trillions of dollars a year simply by taxing some of the wealth of that 0.5% richest household. 2.1 trillion to be exact. Just as a gentle reminder here, cost to end homelessness, $20 billion a year. Cost to end world hunger, $40 billion, one-time donation. Cost to provide free healthcare in America, $3 trillion a year, which is a lot, which is a good thing we only spend $5 trillion, on track for $6 trillion by 2026. In Ireland, they practice the Danish flexicurity model, where wages and working conditions are based on collectively negotiated agreements, and the government rarely interferes. I was actually surprised to learn that there's no legal minimum wage in Denmark. Instead, the relatively high wages are set as part of regular negotiations between employers and labor unions, of which around 67 Danish workers are union members. 67, god damn it! Okay. All right. This works as well as it does for Denmark and other countries that employ similar pro-union policies because both sides feel a duty to reach an agreement that will benefit society at large. In general, unlike plutonomies, egalitarian models strive to maintain strong social safety nets, progressive taxation, and are more likely to enforce labor protections, all tactics that tend to limit the ability of top earners to capture a disproportionate share of national growth. Fortunately, this is not our reality here in the Republic. Over here, rich people hold our entire economy by the balls. Unclipped nails, underhand grip, no chalk. Currently, the economy is dependent on data centers tirelessly working to generate mostly AI slop and the continued commodification of said slop by the very wealthy. The record high stock market is almost exclusively propelled by a handful of old and new money oligarchs. Apple, Meta, Microsoft, JP Morgan, and Goldman Sachs, all because of the optimism about artificial intelligence and financial deregulation. Meanwhile, the rest of the S&P 500 is hanging on by a Temu thread. In 2024, the top 10% of earners became the lion's share of US consumer spending.
The top 10% of earners now drive about half of the spending, according to Moody's Analytics, up from 36% 3 decades ago. These people will determine if the US economy avoids a recession.
And it's true, if your household is earning about $250K or more, you live in Gucci. Your stocks are up, your house is paid off, mergers and acquisitions are back in fashion like the baggy tees and white Air Forces, which is double entendre, but y'all not quick enough. The wealthy continue to spend on lavish vacations, parties, and events that mask the strain that many middle income and working class families are experiencing to economists, which is why it feels so weird how they talk about the news like shit's sweet when eggs are $15. Plutonomy suggests, why should we care what the 99% does with their crumb of a paycheck when we have a whale sitting in front of us begging to overpay for a meal? I'm sure in their heads, they feel like we're not evil. It's just the math. How about you math your way into some pussy nerd? At the end of the paper, the authors predicted that plutonomy and the wealth disparity that comes with it would continue to rise globally. They were confident in this assertion because they knew the drivers of the current economic order would continue to gain strength worldwide. An ongoing tech revolution, capitalist-friendly tax regime, globalization, and increasing financial complexity and innovation. That was 2005. 2 bank bailouts and a PPP loan later, it looks like they put that knowledge and quarterly bonus to good use. Unfortunately, the K-shaped economy is back like the roaring 20s, and there's a clear split between how the top and the bottom are faring. And now, sports.
Hello and welcome to The Kettle, our weekly community call-in show, sponsored by the lovely folks at Sponsorship Bullshit. If you want a sponsorship, we will sell you some bullshit with Sponsorship Bullshit. Today's topic in the oldie but goodie, who is better, the new school or the old school? Looks like we got Kevin on the east side coming to us from Maryland. You're on 96.4 FM Burb Radio. What's on your mind?
Yeah, what's going on? First of all, huge fan, long-time listener, first-time caller. And I've been a die-hard fan of the system, trickle-down offense fan, nearly 40 years now. And the biggest problem with the system is that these new school oligarchs do not, and I repeat, do not treat the game with the same respect. So no fucking way, fam. Can I curse on here? My fault. But old money any damn day. New money couldn't hold a flame to the legends in their prime. Andy Carnegie would murk these boys. Big Body Ford would murk these boys. Then put their wife and kids in a company town. John D. Rockefeller, let me remind you, 1.4 billion points on the board, 24 bills when you account for the era. Yeah, you can say, the league was smaller back then, less teams, smaller budgets, but look at what he did with what he had. Look at what he did with what he had. Rockefeller Foundation, John Hopkins School of Public Health, Spelman College. Spelman! It'd be one thing if the plutocrats at least treated us peasants with enough pity to make sure we had comfortable enough conditions. They can't even be bothered to serve us scraps in style. The old bears used to build libraries. These new niggas don't even read. Love your show. Thank you for your time.
And that's all the time we have, but don't touch that dial. Low Bill's Bean Pie Charity Drive is up next. This is Blackburb Public Media, Blackburb, be you.
Welcome back to the show. As Kyla Scanlon puts it, the U.S. economy is a janky bike operating with 3 disconnected gears, all in various degrees of disrepair. First, you have the Magnificent Seven spending over $100 billion a quarter on massive data centers, equally monumental projects of hope and copium, perfectly representing our newest viral contagion called AI psychosis, where billionaires become addicted to gambling on AI as a new money display of power and an excuse to flex their wealth. It also makes you addicted to ketamine for some reason. Next, you have the real economy. You and me with our 9-to-5s, most likely. Your last 3 comp-sci friends have gone from senior software engineer to junior sandwich artist in the span of 6 months. Graduate unemployment is double that of the rest of the country. Meanwhile, healthcare, that sector is actually in critical need of labor supply, but hospital balance sheets will never fuel the stock market quite the same way meme moonshots can, so. Speaking of which, lastly, we have the meme economy. It's like the bridge between the other two, serving as a black-pilled based outpost for those who feel priced out of the finer things in life, like affordable housing and sweatpants that can survive the first wash. 90% of the consumption here runs the gambit of sincere to cynical, but it does give people a sense of agency and hope when the system that otherwise offers them cumflakes. Look at the Labubu/fart coin twin crazes. This is what happens when the prospect of owning any real asset feels out of reach for an entire generation. When you experience being gatekept out of the very institutions that swore they had your best interest in mind, to cope, you buy meme coins that turn financial nihilism into at least an inside joke you can share with your friends. It's a type of aspirational displacement.
Meme coins and mystery boxes are a way for people to feel they are participating in the boom, even as they are priced out of its tangible rewards. When institutional finance advice assumes you have disposable income, long-term horizons, and faith in market stability, none of which apply to most young people, meme coins become a rational way to engage with financial markets, as you're betting on volatility rather than growth.
The US seems to be trying to invest in new technology to save itself in the future, while also yearning to go back to a past that isn't sustainable. And, I really was never that good at math, but it just doesn't seem like it's really gonna work. But most days the stock ticks green, so we're all stuck in a self-driving Tesla speeding until it crashes into an intersection. But right now there's open highway, so it's fine. We've been here before, haven't we? A K-shaped economy describes a situation where, following an economic downturn, say the housing market collapses or a foreign contagion grinds your part of the world to a halt, at least for a couple of months, different parts of the economy bounce back at different rates. Imagine the letter K. One line shoots upward, the winners, and the other one drops down, the rest of us. K-shaped economies are hallmarks of plutonomies. You see, usually after the economy resets, you'd hope for like a V-shaped recovery, where most of the economy rebounds quickly and evenly. But a K-shaped economy leaves gaps, or more directly, widens existing gaps between industries, income groups, and now, more clearly than ever, generations.
If I wanted to go buy a Rolls Royce, I could do it right now and pay cash.
Paul McGarvey and his wife aren't big travelers, but comfortably retired, they are insulated.
I do a net worth survey on the Fidelity website every week, and it just does nothing but go up. All right, my net worth keeps going up.
John, a retired engineer, is also pretty comfortable.
I own my own house. I own a couple of cars. I have everything that I really want.
Older consumers have shown greater stability thanks to accumulated savings, high home equity, and other financial cushions, in addition to benefiting from the post-World War II economic boom. And listen, no offense to Paul and John, I'm sure they're nice people, would have voted for Obama a third time, but honestly, fuck you. Just fuck you, man. But in case you think I have no sympathy, at least they have problems just like we do.
They've been buying and spending a lot of money.
In fact, his challenge is there aren't enough houses for his high-end clients to buy.
What we have now is a scarcity of supply of the super high end, and our marketplace is 7 million, 10 million, 15 million, even higher. I have active buyers and clients who are looking for something very special, very well renovated, very well presented, and there's just a scarcity of supply.
In contrast, younger generations, especially Gen Z and younger millennials, shout out to millennials, face greater challenges. Many of us are grappling with issues like resumed student loan payments and over-reliance on credit cards due to a rapidly worsening cost of living crisis. These factors are leading to increased delinquencies as everyday expenses outpace wages. This generational divide has made it increasingly difficult for younger people to build wealth, invest, or even maintain consistent financial footing. I mean, my parents keep asking me, when am I going to think about putting a down payment on a house? Sis, I can't even put a down payment on a new MacBook. Like, let's be so real right now. Young people are extremely unhappy in the United States because society broke its promise of a home for them. There's no faith in the future of the system, so people turn to ripping each other apart instead.
Do you know how hard America fumbled Gen Z and millennials? Like, when I was little, I was patriotic as fuck. Like, do you know how hype we're the kids in America? Do you know how hyped they used to get me? And then on top of that, 9/11, I was scared shitless. Y'all really could have kept the system going for a little bit longer, at least 2 more generations, because all y'all had to do was make houses affordable, keep the job market fair, and pay us just a little bit more. But y'all so goddamn greedy. Like, I think we even could have slid on the healthcare. If you just would have paid us a little bit more, we wouldn't have been too hard pressed about the healthcare. But it's just the fact that y'all just got so greedy. It's not the fact that y'all just want to make more money, because you were always making more money. You just wanted all the money. And you fumbled two entire generations. That is such loser behavior. How the hell did that?
Essentially, people from like 30 to 40 years old who would normally be trying to buy a house, right, are throwing money into risky financial assets, meme stocks, Pokemon cards. That one scooter scam I heard about that was getting a bunch of Africans, if y'all remember that. And they're doing it because traditional milestones like being able to own a home and start a family are just too expensive. And these gaps are only widening as the economy becomes concentrated into the hands of a few powerful companies. If the economy is increasingly dependent on a small sliver of mega corporations and wealthy consumers to stay afloat, I feel like I'm just preaching to the choir here, but that's a red flag, right? But specifically, it's a red flag because then these are the only firms and families essentially holding up the entire economy. We're at their beck and call. The fear, as Heather Long reported in the Washington Post, a highly concentrated economy increases the risk of a downturn and will leave many middle-class Americans frustrated and strained. You know one thing white people really cooked with that they didn't steal from brown people? Newsflash, buddy. As in, Newsflash, buddy. If we continue to do nothing, the rich will continue to keep getting richer. As we learned today, late-stage capitalism doesn't need us anymore.
Inequality means no middle class, so it's bare bones essentials. But obviously now I live closer to central London. If you live in and around central, what people always complain is there's only luxury housing being built. And that's an obvious consequence of this wealth inequality, which is that capitalism will adjust. If the middle class has no money and the rich have all the money, we're going to stop producing middle class cars, we're going to stop producing middle class housing, we're going to try and transition that to the rich. And I've got a lot of friends who are dentists, I've got friends who are doctors, and the ones who make the most money, they don't fix teeth for middle class people, they do plastic surgery and cosmetic stuff for rich people. And that's what you would do because these guys have the money. Right?
As we discussed today, the henchmen of the hegemon predicted that the phenomenon of you getting poorer while they get richer would continue to rise globally because the drivers of that wealth concentration weren't going anywhere anytime soon. We have created a world held together by duct tape and 3 control knobs, an ambitious hope by a few billionaires that AI works more than it hurts, a wealthy, aging population that needs taken care of, and the dream of waking up one morning to find out that you bet on the right meme coin, and now, maybe, possibly, you can put a down payment on your first starter home. And if, like me, you're wondering why the fuck we're like this, I mean, that's what this series is about, so stay tuned. I guess like and subscribe. The purpose of a system is what it does. To call something a free market society when it consistently fails to even approach free market outcomes is willful ignorance at best and mass manipulation at worst. We do not have a market-based economy. We exist in a technofeudalist prisoner's experiment where a few socially maladaptive men have dominion over 8 billion people, and it's fucked. Understanding that at this point, the economy is almost automated to shovel assets upwards is key to not being gaslit by politicians and podcasters. The pain is the point. That's why they're cutting healthcare. That's why they're laying off 1,500 employees at the Treasury Department when unemployment is already rising. That's why they're cutting SNAP benefits even after being told they're required to by law. They don't just want your money. They need you to hurt so you're too weak or depressed or distracted to fight back as you hand them your lunch money. Is the economy stupid? And so by that, I mean it's the system, the economic system that has to be uprooted and remade. We must make a new framework that is hyper-focused on raising everyone's standard of living while keeping that cost of living as low as possible. And we need to believe that these two things are not mutually exclusive. That means universal health care. That means affordable housing that is abundant. That means a livable minimum wage to afford that housing concept. And I think one way we do that, a tactic to Pluto-proof our collective wealth, is focusing on the timing of resource allocation rather than only who it's being allocated to, even though that is very important. We have to create and champion policies that are more pre-distributive rather than solely focusing on redistribution. Redistribution refers to changing mainly through taxes and transfers the allocation of income after people have already engaged in labor and the consumer market. Pre-distribution, on the other hand, refers to using legal rules to combat the dark money influences that produce income inequality in the first place. Think minimum wage laws, collective bargaining legislation, antitrust enforcement, intellectual property protection from large corporation. You get it, Lena Khan shit. If there's one thing I want to leave you with, is that we need to change the way we view ourselves in this economy. We are not cogs in the machine, nor temporarily embarrassed millionaires. We are creators. We are citizens, souls in community with each other, sharing time and resources in an effort not to survive, but to reach our highest human potential. And I mean this so seriously, right? We do not work to make money. We work to laugh at memes, to cook rice with family. Money is simply an exchange for the real gold, our energy and our time. So any policy or perspective that doesn't take that into account is a faulty model or a grift. It's not real life. It's not trying to make your life substantially better. The truth is we have the resources, the tools, we have the history on our side, but we have to believe that we can build something better. I'm yapping, but to be honest, Bill Moyer said it best more than 15 years ago.
So it is that, like those populists of that earlier era, millions of Americans have awakened to a sobering reality. They live in a plutocracy where they are disposable. Then, the remedy was a popular insurgency that ignited the spark of democracy. Now, we've come to another parting of the ways, and once again, the fate and character of our country are up for grabs. So along with Jim Hightower and Iowa's concerned citizens and many of you, I am biased. Democracy only works when we claim it as our own.
And as always, be kind.